this is going to be Tap the Card with Avery, and we have a very special guest named Corbin. Avery is going to learn how to put her foot on a card, and we have several steps to start this. First, I'm going to put a treat in my right hand. You can see that, and I'm going to ask her to do it down so we have a little bit of control of her body. I'm going to place my hand down. She's going to sniff it. That doesn't work. She puts her foot on my hand, and I will mark, and then she gets the treat. I mark with a yes or a click. We're going to do this several times so that she understands it's about her foot and not her nose. So we still have a treat in the hand, and now I put out the card and I put my hand over the card. So I have this new visual stimulus in. Same thing, a treat in my hand over the card. I get the foot on my hand. I'm going to mark and reward. Now I have no treat in my hand. I'm going to put it in my left hand so it's easy and fast to get to. I don't care which foot she uses as a tap. So you'll see no treat in the hand is on the card, and then the treat comes from the other hand. So it's very fast. I can get to that as a fast reward. I'm going to try to start to fade my hand out of it. So you'll see instead of a fist on the card, I now just have my fingers. I'm picking up the card so she understands when I place the card down, that is actually a visual cue for her. So now I'm trying to use 1 or 2 fingers, and she's figuring it out. It's not about her head. It's not a visit on the card. A little bit of patience was what was needed there until she offered the foot tap behavior. All right, now I'm trying to take my hand completely out of it. She's still trying another behavior. There you go. I used a little bit of a tap, a little finger point, because she needed that, but I'm still going to try and just give her the visual cue, take my finger out of it, see if she'll offer a foot tap. Let's see. I'm going to pick it up again because I did not get the correct response. Here's my visual cue. She's going to try and bite at it, so I just take that away. I'm not going to let her play or chew or bite with those things, and I'm going to present it again. There, we got it. All right, so I'm going to mark and reinforce that. So a little bit of this training is going to go forward and a little bit back. I'm trying to filter out the behaviors I don't want, which would be picking up the card with her mouth. That was a good one. That was a really good one. So she's going to get several reinforcements right there because that was really what I was looking for. So you'll see 3, 4, maybe 5 treats given right there. I'm going to pick up the card. There's my visual stimulus. Boom. That was a nice behavior right there. Once again, several in a row. I want to make sure when she makes that extra effort, I'm giving extra food reinforcers. So now that I have that, I'm going to add in my wonderful partner right there. That's Corbin. And so Corbin is my kiddo, and this is how you guys are going to apply this for your child interaction. And so Corbin's going to set down the card, and now she's going to put a foot on it. I'm going to click, and then he's going to give her a treat. Oh, there, oh, he helped her out just a little bit. There we go, got a foot on there. And so I'm directing it, but Corbin is really putting the card down, and he's giving the food reinforcer. I keep Avery in a nice down. I like her to be here because then she's not moving around too much, and that's a lot easier for the adult, the child, and the dog. He can either give the treat by hand or he can put it on the floor. That was a great job, Avery and Corbin. Thank you. Okay, so as we visit about this, and you can write in any questions that you may have, I have to say that this was a brilliant game that a dog named Arrow was doing with his handler in Pima County. And they use memory cards, so a match to sample. So you match the train to the train or the horse to the horse, and Arrow would put his paw on one of those cards, and then the handler would turn it over, and then they would see if they match. And so this is a beginning of a game like that, a wonderful game where you can interact with the child and the dog.
And it can also be a no contact game because, you know, the dog can be pretty separate. So the handler can do all of the handling of the dog, and the kids could just do the cards or putting the cards in a separate basket or on the ground and making the separate piles. So if they have any fear, then there's enough space for them to feel safe, but still be able to interact with them.
think that's important to remember. We all work with different cultures, different ages, and different history and experiences. So you may have someone who wants to interact, but is a little bit intimidated by it, maybe, whether it's an adult or a child. And so what are the purpose of these games is how to bridge that gap so that they're interacting, but they don't feel like they have to pet the dog or they don't have to have the dog's head on their lap. So interactive games that kind of bridge that gap. We would like to say hello and thank you to Miss Kayla, our intern that is here right now from New York. And so she's behind the scenes. You might see us look at her. She is taking care of the questions that are going to be coming in, and she will ask those of us as you have those questions from your side. So please don't be shy. You can send in any questions you might have about these games or training in general.
Approximately how long does it take to train a behavior like this?
It depends on how many steps you want to put into your training plan, but I mean, these dogs learned this within, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes or so.
I think so.
Yeah, and the more you do it, the better and faster they get at it. But, you know, it just depends on the complexity of the behavior. But these dogs have a high aptitude for learning, so they love learning these new games.
Right. In reality, the dogs that are working at ADW have come to understand learning how to learn. They understand the training game, what a clicker is, how to move forward with behavior. And as long as those small steps are in place, it goes quickly. What you saw us doing there was pretty much in real time. We didn't do too many clips to gather that segment right there. So Avery is a fast learner. I was moving forward. I knew what I had, which she was able to touch, and I knew what I wanted. So then what I had was I just put those small steps in order and sometimes went backwards and sometimes forward. But I think 15 to 20 minutes would be a good.
And that's
estimate.
keeping in mind too, that all these dogs do have their foundational behaviors installed already. So we already had the push in Barney. I don't know what Avery needed. I mean, she's very hand oriented. So realizing the targeting and understanding to use her nose versus her feet. So a lot of those things they already have installed. So it's just kind of picking out those behaviors to build a new behavior.
Can you add a weight so the dog doesn't try to paw the card before you set it down?
Well, yes and no. This kind of goes back to the first thing that we said with the ball is that you don't want in the middle of training to be doing a lot of yes, no. That just gets to be pretty difficult, right? So what I would do instead, because once you're asking for a weight, what are you going to do with it? How are you going to reinforce it? And I'm not asking for a verbal cue, right? So there's not a red light, green light kind of thing going on. So in the beginning, I'm not asking for a weight. If she gets too footsie and is just pawing a lot, I would simply take the card away and I would probably give like 3 to 5 seconds just for energy to go down just a moment.
Yeah, if you
And
just
then
take
I would
the
ask
time
it
to
again.
kind of slow the process and just take a breath between each step.
Yeah.
And then someone else said, I noticed there's naturally a little longer gap between the dog's successful behavior and the child's ability to provide the treat. Is that okay?
I think so. I mean, as long as the reinforcer does come, I mean, there's always going to be a natural lag because we do, whether it be an adult or a child, you do have to reach to the bag. You do have to go for it. So it's not instantaneous, but if you're marking with your click or your yes, the dog knows. So you've marked the behavior saying, yes, that's what we wanted. So they are anticipating the treat. So it buys you a little time to get it to them.
It does. And remember their visual as well. So they see, even though it may take a little bit of time for Corbin to get the treat out of his pouch and get it to them, they see that process happening. And so they know it's coming. And remember that as Mara said, all people move differently. Sometimes we have dogs who are working with persons in wheelchairs. It takes an amount of time to get the reinforcer to them. So it's a good lesson in patience as well.
And then going back to the ball rolling example, should we use a different cue if the dog is using push on other objects like doors or cabinets?
No, I think a push is a push. You know, it's a kind of a nose boop movement forward. So whether it's closing a door or pushing a ball, it is the same behavior.
Yeah. Perfect. All right. Thank you, everybody, for all your questions. Continue as we do the next segment. You can always send in questions and we'll be trying to get to those, but please enjoy our next training segment.